I know we've been kind of like talking a whole lot of like how this problem that really kind of comes from these like very specific like interactions in the transaction chain started to compound, and now we have all of this data that's showing us, whoa, this is such a huge thing and it's getting worse. How can we fix it? So um uh let's
Yeah,
talk at the top of the supply and then move it down.
let's
So how
do
do we
it. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, like we talked about, most important thing, like get a grasp on your COGS, right? Your cost accounting, know your margins, know your target, right? Know where you want to be to achieve that product market fit. And I think the biggest thing is like this is continuous, right? Like you should be doing this every quarter, if not every month, right? Like it is a continuous exercise, continue to think about. And then, right, what you really need to do is start to forecast out, right? And there's like, we release free wholesale data. There's a lot out there. Understand what it's going to look like. And then don't forget, look back at other states, right? A lot of other operators, a lot of other states have made a lot of mistakes that you can learn from, right? On that side. I think the key thing here is as a producer, you need to get as close to just in time inventory as possible, right? It's better to have some scarcity than overproduction, right? Like that's better. Even if you feel like, oh, we could make another whatever revenue, just catch yourself a little bit, right? Like kind of look back at the moment. Okay, are we comfortable here? The thing is like we talked about, as retailers get smarter and like use things like Happy Cabbage provides, right? And they can start to understand, oh, we need to stock certain things a little less, and they start to stock to demand. That behavior is going to dramatically impact your sell through, and so you have to get really smart here, right? And invest in systems and tools and partnerships and things that help you get that. The other thing is like in wholesale, one of the things that we always see is like discount, right? Like ultimately everyone defaults to discounting, whether that's bulk or promo or whatever, it's discount, 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 right? The thing is like be creative. Like if you're gonna discount, but find ways to bundle your premium with the value, right? Think about like, okay, this is one where we can afford to have a little lower margin. This is a sell through, it balances out. Have the story to tell to the retailer around that, right? Just don't default to what to the discount is. I think there's things around like sponsoring loyalty campaigns. Really just find ways to invest in your retailer's success, right? It's just not the product that's getting there that's selling through, right? You have to have a more compelling reason today in the market. Come up with that special sauce, right? Whatever that might be. And there's a lot of different approaches that your business can take. I think the other thing is don't fall into the traps. Like I see this so much, specific in like Massachusetts. I was touring facilities like 2 years ago, right? And I'm meeting with a bunch, some small grow, some big grow, different clients, right? And one of the common things was like, oh man, demand's good right now. Price is great. We're looking at adding 5 more rooms or this many more rooms or this more thing. I'm like, yeah, did you know I just left a big MSO's client of ours and they just added 400,000 square feet, you know? And their neighbor just added 200,000 square feet, right? So the thing is like when you're in the early stages of the market, just be patient, right? Don't like just jump at what you feel is this a wonderful thing to make all this revenue because it's short term. It will change, and your business could really pay either the dividends or get or suffer depending on how you think about that, right? So like as much as we want to make the money and be greedy, take advantage of the great times, just recognize they don't last forever, right? And this idea of like sometimes with that is be careful of over proliferation of your SKUs and product category lines, right? It's really like if you're a grower and you're growing great flower, okay, maybe we do a pre-roll line, right? Now let's go do a rosin. Now let's go do this, right? And with each new business unit, right, it's a new company from the ground up. It's a new startup from the ground up, essentially, right? You have to think about that relative to cost as well. Because again, you see, oh, let's introduce this line or that line. People are asking for it. But then you got to go back and think about the demand, think about supply, think about your COGS, think about all of that to make sure that it's the right move. Don't just like react for that short-term gain. I think that's a common thing we tend to see, which is exciting, right? You're making good money, 4,000 a pound. Let's go double it up. And it can change, right? It can change dramatically. So I think it's just like be really thoughtful about the way you think about scaling your business and ultimately the way you think about producing and discounting.
Yeah, 100%. And then how that translates, I'd say, down to the retail level, and just like giving also some of those simple solutions, some advisements back up to the retail level. I would say a lot of it comes down to retailers, you know, hold firm to stocking to demand, right? Yes, a wholesaler can come and give you a 30% improvement on margin, which is great. But they're saying, hey, we can only do that if you increase your order by 30% on volume, which may be coming from what we're talking about here on the side of like getting to move it through. unless you're taking 30% of your volume down somewhere else, you may end up with 30% too much inventory regardless, right? So yeah, you made some more margin on what you did sell, but ultimately, if you're still stuck at the end of the day having to discount, sell out, right, just to get it moving, you know, you're going to be cutting into your own demand on your other full price products potentially in your own margin, right? So stocking to the observed demand, right? And this comes down to like getting really closely tracking those run rates, really closely tracking on knowing how much of a thing you actually need, and then working within the confines of that, not necessarily working totally in the confines of what the wholesaler is going to give you on that margin optimization thing. Because if you're optimizing for your on paper margin terms you feel like you're getting, you may be completely missing the mark on how much actual demand you need. And what does this come down to talk about on the marketing side? The problem is on the marketing side, if you miss the mark and then you're now getting driven to do discounts to help move expiring inventory, discounts to help move a wholesaler who's trying to push out all of their stuff, discounts on products that aren't as popular, right? Aren't as good, that your customers don't like as much, that then becomes your voice in your marketing voice on all of your communications, on your text, on your emails, on your weed map spins, on your deals that the budtenders are talking about. And that then starts to become your brand, right? Like it becomes part of that. And so that's why all this really matters, right? In terms of understanding that all of it kind of comes back to that. And so I can't emphasize enough there on building those brand relationships like we're talking about and being honest to those brands, particularly your top brands. Because what we know, what we've seen in the data is that consumers, particularly latent consumers, consumers who haven't been in the store in a while, do respond positively to be marketed to for a brand that they did purchase previously that they liked. What are your best selling brands, right? Can you build good relationships with those wholesalers on that? When that wholesaler says, hey, I'll give you better terms if you order even more, can you have the conversation that says, hey, I actually probably can't order more, but I'll still take those better terms and I'll probably stop reordering some of this other stuff. And then if overall I have more room on my menu, I can fit that in, which then can benefit your marketing voice because you know you have consumers who respond to being marketed about that brand, right? And that builds that relationship, and you can even build that in to that kind of conversation. So you're not getting kind of like strong armed a little bit into putting too much self in your back room. Because again, at the end of the day, if people don't pay for the stuff, there's no money to pay for any of this, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, guide your own marketing destiny, guide your own destiny, right?